as political parties and their candidates prepare to commence campaigns for different offices in less than 48 hours from now, observers say that an overwhelming majority of Nigerians have made up their minds to vote candidates that can provide solutions to the myriad of problems bedeviling Nigeria. For that conversation, we are now being joined by APC chieftain Hilliard Etta. Good to have you on Newsday. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Well, campaign season officially kicks off on the 28th in just a couple of days, and Nigerians definitely have a lot of things on the front burner concerning the issues that are plaguing everyday life. Well, it seems in the unofficial campaign season, a lot of discussion has been on religious and ethnic sentiment, and a lot of interwrangling with party members, deviating a lot from the major issues that Nigerians are facing today. Do you foresee a situation where the conversation will be changed more to issues that affect us in real life as these campaigns progress, or is it still silly season?
Well, thank you very much. I hope that the conversation will be taken away from those things that are immaterial, those things that are not central or core to the very issues that affect the common man in Nigeria. I hope that the conversation will be centered around issues of development, issues of access to education, issues of industrialization, issues of wealth creation, issues of creating enabling environment for the private sector to thrive, those kinds of issues that will positively impact the Nigerian people and the Nigerian society. I hope that it will be brought to the fore, and the conversations arising from the various aspirations will be centered around those issues. That is my hope. I believe that it is possible that we deepen the conversations, we deepen the interactions between those who seek our votes and those who will vote on the day of elections. It will be good for Nigeria, it will be good for the political parties, it will be good for everybody that we have a rewarding, soul-searching conversation in these periods that are coming.
Now, talking about deepening the conversation, a number of analysts are wondering how Bola Tinubu will sell his candidacy considering the poor performance of this administration. The economy has dwindled, insecurity is rife, education is nothing to write home about, the healthcare sector is not any better. Yet the APC wants another 4 years in office. Why? When the party has not been able to achieve any meaningful growth in terms of national development, no matter how your party spokesmen try to manipulate reality.
Thank you very much for that question. First of all, I am not here to speak for the Buhari administration. The Buhari administration is well represented in terms of its ability to interact with the media. I am here to speak about Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, it is true that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is of the APC. It is true that the APC is in government today. But you see, if you consider all the presidential candidates in today's election, I think that it is Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu who has the antecedents, his previous offices that he has occupied in the public space to campaign with, not only is he going to campaign as a very successful, perhaps the most successful governor in the history of Nigeria, he's also going to campaign as a very successful senator. He's also going to campaign as a very successful campaigner for the emergence of the democratic dispensation that all of us are experiencing and enjoying today. So above all things, I think it is actually Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu who has the necessary narratives to interact with the Nigerian people and convince them to vote for him because of his antecedents. If you juxtapose the various presidential candidates, you see that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu comes away in flying colors and is incomparable to others. So it is on the basis of that that we're going to campaign. And I believe that it will resonate throughout the nooks and crannies of Nigeria, because everybody is astounded by the sheer magnitude of success that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has recorded in the Lagos story. The Lagos story is a story that is a pride for all Nigerians, and today it is a pride for the people of the APC, and we're going to campaign on the success or the successes that he has achieved in his public life.
All right, thank you for that. And going back to one of the discussions that we really don't want to harp on too much as we move forward, but will most certainly be a discussion topic as it has been, is this Muslim ticket. The APC has embarked on some grassroots campaigns in order to publicize and sensitize, I guess, individuals as to their agenda, especially when it comes to the religious part of it, going to meet with bishops and other clergymen. There's been a lot of discussion about this, especially on social media as well. I'm wondering if it's seen as a bit of a backlash, as the Muslim ticket has gotten a bit of a negative connotation, and also whether you see that as a way forward for the APC to potentially lose the election, seeing as it's such a hot button ticket.
Well, first of all, let me say that I'm a Christian, and unapologetically so. I do know that different contingents from different faiths, and it is not only Christianity and Islam that is practiced as a faith in Nigeria. Different societies, different contingents from different faiths have paid visits to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So if the members of the Christian faith have paid a visit to interact with him and ask him questions as to what he intends to achieve as the president of Nigeria, I think it is in the right direction. Now, we cannot control how other people read those kinds of situations, but we do know that it is incumbent on our presidential candidate to engage every section of the Nigerian society, and the Christian community is part of the Nigerian society. So we cannot say because the tickets, our ticket has 2 Muslims on it, that we will not interact with the members of the Christian faith. Now, like Tinubu said himself, he is not going into the villa to preside over religious matters. He is going into the villa to preside over the manner and the approach that Nigeria can translate its perennial potentials into reality of prosperity, into reality of development, into reality of progress. These are some of the things that occupy his mind. It is not for him to fan the embers of religious differences in Nigeria. I think that we have sufficiently dealt with the issue of the same faith ticket of the APC. I think we should move ahead. I think the fourth estate of the realm should help the Nigerian nation move ahead into other conversations that are central to the health of Nigeria as a nation, that will help in nation building, in building this country. Even the best of democratic communities in the world are as best described as imperfect unions. A place like the United States of America has been at different times described as an imperfect union. Then, of course, Nigeria is an imperfect union. And so there are issues that we should concentrate to deal with those imperfections. Religion is not one of them. Religion cannot be one of them. So I think that we should shift away from this and begin to discuss what the candidates will do with regards education, what the candidates will do with regards trade, what the candidates will do with regards industrialization. These are the things that will affect the day-to-day life of the average Nigerian, that will bring that will take Nigeria to its realistic place in the Committee of Nations, that will translate the potentials of Nigeria into industrial or developmental realities. These are some of the things that we should bring as a conversation at this time. We have a few months to the election. Nigerians must begin to interrogate these candidates and begin to find out whether, in terms of their past, because we are not God to know what they will do tomorrow, and talk is cheap. So we will now have to bring to bear what they did in the past to determine what they will do in future. So these are some of the things. For instance, almost all the presidential candidates have been in one office or the other in Nigeria. So these are some of the issues. We should begin that kind of conversation and put the conversation about the same faith ticket to bed. This is my take on the matter.
Well, thank you so much for giving us your take on that matter. But I'd like to ask you another question. Now, some analysts are wondering if all is well within the APC, with the exclusion of Vice President Yemi Osinbajo and Mr. Boss Mustafa from the campaign council, even though the presidency has said that they have been excluded for governance purposes. But isn't it morally wrong for the president to leave governance for party affairs? Isn't it a case of misplaced priority? Isn't it a warning that Nigerians should be careful going forward?
Well, I think you're reading too much meaning into the exclusion of Mr. Vice President and the Secretary to the Federal Government. It has been explained to Nigerians by the highest levels of government, which is the presidency, that it is the expectation of Mr. President that as he leads the campaign across the nooks and crannies of Nigeria, that there should be a representation of the presidency in the villa. And that is Mr. Vice President and the Secretary to the Federal Government. People can read meanings into it. It does not remove from the fact that this is what the president has directed, and it has been so carried out. Whatever permutations that you can do, you are allowed to do it. This is the political season where permutations and possible gossips and all manner of things come into play. But what is reality is that it is the instruction of Mr. President, and the party has abided by it.
All right, Mr. Etta. Earlier you were talking about some of the issues that we should be concentrating on in terms of the discussion of our political candidates, knowing that you aren't exactly the spokesperson for Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Do you have an idea of how to tackle this growing, festering situation we have within our education system? We know ASU has been on strike, been off strike, and now has forced the teachers back. Your presidential candidate, any ideas of how he would begin to tackle the huge issues we have within our education system?
Thank you very much. It is at the center, it is at the core of our desire to develop as a nation. Speaking of education, the issue of education is so important that countries that are very serious put education first on its priority list, second on its priority list. In some countries, they even make it the first three priorities in terms of national development. Having said so, let me say that the processes that guide especially tertiary education in Nigeria is outdated, and it must be looked at from a perspective of new ideas. It is not simply sustainable that the kinds of monetary requirements from students and those who desire to acquire education in Nigeria make is not sustainable at all. Now, there are so many paradigms across the world. We must find, because we are not going to reinvent the wheel, we must find the one that best suits Nigeria. For instance, there are some countries that grant students loans to pay as tuition and have to pay back these monies over years. Now, that clearly gives you the impression that it is acknowledged that tertiary education is very expensive. And if you go to public schools in Nigeria, you hear fees of 48,000, 52,000, 60,000. These kinds of fees are not sustainable. The government, Nigeria, like I said earlier, we have the potentials to be a very wealthy nation. But as I speak to you today, Nigeria is not a wealthy nation. Nigeria is a potentially wealthy nation. And there are so many sectors across board that compete for the resources that is available to Nigeria. So we must begin to be creative on the issue of education. We cannot be doing the same things that have failed us over time. We cannot continue to do those things even as they continue to fail us. So we need to sit down. All the stakeholders in the educational sector have to sit down and find creative methods of dealing with the issue of education, especially tertiary education. Nobody can deny the fact that if ASU is asking for the welfare of its members, that it is wrong. Nobody can say that. But nobody can also say that government has all the money that ASU is looking for to solve the problems of the universities alone. The university is just one arm in the educational cycle of a nation. So if the kinds of money that we keep hearing is demanded by ASU for just university, what happens to colleges of education, polytechnics, secondary schools, college of health technology? There are so many of them. So we need to be creative. That is my take. And I believe that Asiwaju Bola Tinubu will find a creative and an innovative way. He has always been a man who pursues innovation and creativity. So I believe that the moment that he takes over government, that this issue of always having ASU go on strike and our children kept at home will be a thing of the past. I mean, everybody should be tired. Everybody should be I don't know, exhausted by the consistent, over the years, the consistent situation of us going on strike and our children staying back at home. It is important that we begin to bring new ideas to these old problems.
Mr. Hilliard,
that is the only way to sort out this issue.
Now, Mr. Etta, can you give us clarification on the inclusion of Senator Chimaroke Namani on the APC's Presidential Campaign Council? We are aware that is a member of the PDP or as a defector to the APC. When did this happen? What more can you tell us?
Well, you had earlier said that I was not the spokesperson for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. That is true. We have an official spokesperson in the person of Olorogun Festus Keyamo, SAN. We even have the director of media and publicity, who is Mr. Onanuga. So they have spoken exhaustively on this issue. But I would like to say here that being the kind of person that Asiwaju is, it is a novelty that he enjoys for the first time at this level of contest, that he enjoys bipartisan support. It is not just the members of the PDP. It's just that His Excellency Chimaroke Nnamani is a known figure. There are so many who are supporting our candidate, but who are not card-carrying members of the APC. They are all over the country. It is simply because Bola Ahmed Tinubu is Bola Ahmed Tinubu. In fact, there is a saying amongst us that if Bola Ahmed Tinubu cannot stop people from supporting Bola Ahmed Tinubu, so he enjoys support from the PDP, he enjoys support from Labour Party, he enjoys support from the AZP, the YPP, everywhere in the country. It is why it has become topical, is because His Excellency Chimaroke Nnamani was once governor of Enugu State. But I stand by the release by Bayo Anonuga and Festus Keyamo San on the issue of the inclusion of the name of His Excellency Chimaroke Nnamani in the PCC. And I'd like to end it like this. His Excellency Chimaroke Nnamani has the to accept the inclusion of his name and or reject the inclusion of his name. After all, in the last election in the United States of America, we were alive when we saw the likes of Colin Powell, renowned Republicans, support Joe Biden in the presidential election. So it is not new. It is just that, like everything Asiwaju, it is new in Nigeria.
Well then, APC Chieftain Hilliard Etta, thank you so much for joining us and joining the conversation this afternoon.